area for tropical storm impact. So we look at Ian now. You can see here on the satellite presentation that we've got winds at 65. That is going to jettison out into the open Atlantic Thursday today at 2 o'clock. So we start to separate from Ian, and then that looks like it continues with the tropical storm status. In fact, it increases some, just shy of the Category 1 hurricane. That's a strong tropical storm Friday at 2 p.m., strengthening over the warm waters of the Atlantic. Water temps still around 80, maybe 82-degree Fahrenheit mark, and the Gulf Stream current out there as well. So it looks like it's going to ride that up into the Carolinas and make its presence known with heavy rain. There's some tropical storm warned areas up that away as well. Want to give you a look here at the camera. Again, what you're seeing here on the side of the screen are rescue units down in Osceola County near Kissimmee. We had water rescues. The water packed in real tight, and they started that rising level there. So cars were stranded, folks were stranded. So that's what we're doing. Randy Hildreth, one of our great reporters here at Fox 35, is live on the scene, bringing us clear, concise reports as to what's happening. There you see Randy right there in the box. The outlook again at iDrive 72. That's a north wind at 43. And we look at the canopy of impactful winds from Ian now moving offshore by 2 o'clock, and we track that out as it moves over the open Atlantic, destined again for the coastal Carolinas. Last check here on some wind speeds and gusts. Have a few inquiries on the social media platforms, so I want to let you know we haven't forgotten about you out there. We've been juggling these flood warnings like crazy back here in the Storm Center. We have to address life-threatening situations. Of course, the wind's on the mind of many, so we show you 43 sustained Orlando, that latest gust at 62 miles per hour, 55 at Sanford, sustained 39, and Daytona Beach, a latest wind gusts as of late, most recent at 69 miles per hour, and a sustained wind there at around 55. I want to head on over to Allison Gargaro now. She's monitoring our Fox weather alerts board. Allison, much ado here in Central Florida with the flood threat unfolding, and you've got information on that right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I do want to bring you an update. So we are looking at a flash flood warning now in Lake County, Orange County, Seminole County, as well as Volusia counties. That is in effect until 12:15 this afternoon. So we've been talking about how likely that these flash flood warnings would be extended, and we are seeing just that. A few others that will be expiring anywhere from 8:45 until 10 o'clock this morning, but we could be seeing those extended as well. So even though you might be hearing a lull in the rain, which we're hearing right on our Fox 35 studios here, want to let you know that more rain could be on the way. So let's actually take you out into what we are seeing. Some heavy rain that's still offshore of Volusia County, but that's going to be making its way across the interior. So let's zoom you right on into Daytona Beach, Port Orange, Ponce Inlet, New Smyrna Beach. It looks like it's just light to moderate rain right now, but you can see some of that red, those heavier bands that are moving in. And if we actually take you into our rainfall rate, you can see just how fast and how much rain could be falling at a rate of 2.3 inches per hour just to the west of I-95 there, and in DeLand it's just under an inch per hour. So it could be light in some locations, but please do not let your guard down. We have seen a lot of rain in a very short amount of time, and as we head throughout the afternoon hours today, and we do actually see some of that rain start to push offshore into the Atlantic, you can see a lot has fallen in the path of Ian. But if I take you into our rain outlook, where we actually could be seeing even more rain throughout the afternoon, some of the highest threats this afternoon up near Palm Coast, that does include portions of Flagler and Volusia County, and then lesser amounts as you go toward the Orlando metro. But like we've been tracking on our very own Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar, still a lot of rain to talk about. So let's take you right back in to our loop, and you can see that that center of circulation is slowly making its way through Brevard County right now, but that counterclockwise motion going to be bringing even more rain across Lake County. I do want to mention, it looks like I-75 is that stopping point. So if you are west of I-75 up through north central Florida, that does include Gainesville, you could maybe be seeing some sprinkles, but it's really the heavier rain that's not only going to be pushing in to Seminole and Orange counties, back into Osceola, Polk. We're seeing that in Lake, and then eventually making its way back into Brevard County. So I know we have some reporters out there saying, hey, what are we going to be seeing over the next hour or so? Well, until these rain bands actually move into your area, things are going to be quiet, but where the heaviest rain is moving into DeLand, Deltona, and toward Daytona Beach. And Jamie, this is impacting the roads as well. So we're continuing to monitor traffic conditions for you. That's something that I'm watching very, very closely. Florida's Turnpike is going to be closed. That's from Colonial Drive to the beach line. So there's a lot of water on the roadways, and we always talk about you don't want to drive through the flooded roadways because you don't know how much water is on the ground, and we don't want anybody getting injured from not only the standing water, but some of it could be moving as well.
Well, hydroplaning, big issue. You hit that at high speed, forget about it, right? Out of control you go.
Yeah.
Allison, thank you. Great job today.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you. Back to you guys.
All right. Thank you so much. We have been looking at images on Twitter of just the devastation that we're seeing. And one of the areas that's really devastated is the area around Lake Eola, where the water has come up and flooded the surrounding streets.
Yeah, not an area of downtown we often see flood, but that has been the case today, like so many parts of Central Florida. Let's check in with Dave Puglisi. He's been finding flooded street after flooded street. And Dave, looks like a lot of water behind you. This is Nestor this morning. He is with us this morning. Nestor, good morning.
Oh. Hey, good morning. Sorry about that. I was like, is it me? Yeah. So I'm at New Smyrna Beach, actually. And so just a couple minutes ago, you must have seen that truck that had stalled out. Well, just a couple minutes ago, right after I talked to you guys, he had a buddy pull up with an even bigger truck, and he was able to pull him out, at least to the side for now. So that worked out for him. And actually, I just saw a couple minutes ago a tow truck go by. So we might start seeing people finally venture out, but for the most part, officials say stay home. The floodwaters are very high. You just heard Allison say that we are still under a flood advisory here in Volusia County for all of the morning till noon, I believe she said. And so we've seen the water rise because when we first arrived to New Smyrna Beach, downtown area, Canal Street, there was no flooding. The street was dry. By the time we were live on TV at 5 this morning, it was up to almost my knees, mid-calf for sure. And we had to go ahead and drive our SUV out before we got stuck. So we're seeing cars stalled. The New Smyrna Beach police and Volusia County deputies, they say they're going to any rescue calls that they're getting, if possible, whenever possible. So it's not a good idea to set yourself out there. Also, it's a good thing to remember is don't take resources away from those who need it, right? If you say, well, the sun's out now, the rain's a little lighter at this moment, maybe now's the time to go outside. If something happens to you, someone else who needs help now has to wait down a queue, And so, again, the big takeaway also is there's nothing open. Even me, I've been craving coffee all morning. I've been up since midnight. There's no coffee. There's no gas. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the situation as we see it right now. And you can see some folks trying to make the trek here. We're on Dixie Freeway right off State Road 44.
Yeah, just an unsafe situation. And these are trucks that are getting around. But again, as you mentioned, Nestor, where are they going? There's nowhere to go unless you're going to try to rescue grandmother from her house, right? But even then, you should allow the authorities to do it. And there's a sedan behind you that definitely shouldn't be driving through those floodwaters. You're going to get stuck. We heard Sheriff Chitwood say that they had these high-profile vehicles yesterday that would be out and about. Have you seen any emergency service personnel out there?
I saw one of the big vehicles that New Smyrna Beach rides around with the tires that are high up to purposely move around in floodwaters. They passed by. I'm not sure where they were going, but I've been in contact with the public relations officer, and that's when they told me, we go out when we can, if we can. But another important thing to remember is most of the injuries and deaths that happen from a storm happen after the storm, right?
Yes.
So right now you're like, oh, it's moving away, it's going away. Well, it's electrocution because of flooding. It is drowning. We already know a 72-year-old man fell into a canal and drowned himself today.
Yeah, Nestor, it's a great point. And probably a lot of those, you got to figure people that have been through a lot of hurricanes, and they're all different. They all bring different things. And there's
a deputy
police
right
vehicle
behind him.
And Volusia County is such a big county. Their rescues are hard because it stretches for such a long area.
Yeah, just a short time ago, Nestor showed us the business that he's standing next to that had sandbags up next to the door trying to keep some of the rainwater from coming in. But again, as those vehicles are driving past Nestor, that becomes problematic because that pushes the water into the doors.
Yeah, I wanted to show you that again. We are seeing cars. And the thing is, because there are so few cars, some people with vehicles that are a little higher, trucks and stuff, they'll go quicker than they should. And that water will just come just like in waves right hitting this wall above the sandbags. The water will go above the sandbags. So thank God these people went ahead and put the sandbags up, because if not, they would be filled with water right now. And the situation can only get worse, because we know that Tropical Storm Ian is moving so slowly, but this is his exit ramp, right? This is where he's where Ian is moving as he leaves. So the only reprieve, good news we'll have, is once we're past this, we can finally say Ian's over with.
Amen. Nestor, great job. Give us a sense, just for people that are watching, how close you are to water right now.
How close are we to water right now, Jeff? About 2.5 miles.
Yeah, they're at 44.
We're about 2.5 miles, and I'm telling you, you'll see some places not as flooded as others, but you need the whole street to make it to the other side. So it's dangerous. The only thing I will say is that it is so much better now that the sun is out, because during our 5 a.m. Hits, when we were checking in with you guys, we could not see, and we didn't know where the street ended and water began, which of course is the other fear.
Yeah, no kidding. So Nestor, in Volusia County, I'm getting pictures from viewers in New Smyrna Beach. All their yard is completely flooded, water coming up to the door there. So this is a significant problem throughout Volusia County. And again, that flash flood warning goes to 10 this morning for Volusia.
Nestor, great job. And we'll find that in all counties, Osceola, Seminole, Orange. You're going to find flooding issues there for sure. Let's get to Allison now. We've talked about the rain. At least we've been now 2 hits in a row with Nestor where it wasn't raining. So that's at least a positive.
That is a positive. But as you can see, some of that heavy rain is starting to load up out over the Atlantic and push on shore. So just south of Daytona Beach and just to the north of Edgewater there, and continuing right along the I-4 corridor. So I do want to take you out to some of our cameras that we have across the viewing area. This is I-4 near the Turnpike. Now, you can see that the wind has been moving the camera just a little bit. There is some flooding off to the side. I do want to mention that Florida's Turnpike is closed in both directions from Colonial Drive to the beach line. So that expands quite a long ways. That's just how much water we're seeing on the roadways. And they didn't see that it would be safe for folks to drive on that. So we're watching that. For right now, we're going to send things over to Governor Ron DeSantis. So let's listen in.
And great Coast Guard, Admiral McPherson, and they've been so good in terms of what's happened. So as soon as that storm passed in the very wee hours of the morning, first responders from the local, state, and federal level descended on Southwest Florida. The Coast Guard has been performing rescue missions on the barrier islands consistently since the wee hours of the morning. We have Florida Guard assets on the ground participating in efforts, and we have our USAR teams who they got there even while the winds were going. They wanted to get in there, get on the ground across Alligator Alley, and they are performing rescue efforts, again, starting with those barrier islands, but also looking at the places that had the most inland flooding. And these operations are ongoing. In total, there's 28 large, mostly Chinooks and Blackhawks helicopters between the National Guard and Coast Guard that are already performing these active rescue missions. And there will be more air assets brought in as the day goes on. We've also been working with hospitals overnight who've been on generator power. We're in the process of evacuating 2 healthcare facilities to safer locations north. We're also surging more medical personnel into the area. As of 6 a.m. this morning, they have 2.02 million reported power outages, but outside of Southwest Florida, we may have additional outages from Central and Northeast Florida impacts, and people should anticipate that. If you look, there's 1.5 million outages in 7 Southwest Florida counties. Lee and Charlotte are basically off the grid at this point. Sarasota has 250,000 without power. Hillsborough, 222,000. Pinellas, 150,000. Manatee, 129,000. The Charlotte and Lee reconnects are really going to likely have to be rebuilding of that infrastructure. And so there are linemen, there are crews that are on their way down right now, but that's going to be more than just connecting a power line back to a pole. The other counties likely are not going to require the extent of the structural rebuild, but of course that's going to be assessed as the day goes on. But we do have huge amounts of resources that are en route and are going to work to get people's power on as quickly as possible. We've also had interruptions in communications as a result of the storm, particularly in Southwest Florida. We have 100 portable cell towers being deployed into the area. And those would be put up once it's fully safe to do so. FDOT is on the ground working on making sure that the roads and interstates are open. Alligator Alley on 75 across into Collier and into Lee County is open. The traffic is flowing. I-75 south through Charlotte County is open and flowing. Portions of Lee County, they're still looking at. As you know, some of those areas, Cape Coral, city of Fort Myers, they got really, really inundated and really devastated by this storm. So the hope is that all of 75 will be open, but most of it is open, and it gives us what we need to be able to continue to move supplies into the area. We have 100 engineers on site to do bridge inspections, and they work in teams of 2. As they assess the damage and they can ensure safety, then bridges can be safely reopened. Now, of course, we do have reports of structural damages to bridges, such as the bridge going on to Sanibel Island, and I anticipate there will likely be other bridges that have suffered damage. But once bridges are inspected and determined to be safe, they will be reopened as soon as possible. But we know Sanibel Causeway, and we also know Pine Island Bridge. Those two are not passable, and they are going to require structural rebuilds. Right now, if you look in Central Florida, you're looking at potential major flooding in Orange and Seminole counties, St. Johns River, all the way up potentially into Northeast Florida and Jacksonville. The amount of water that's been rising and will likely continue to rise today, even as the storm is passing, is basically a 500-year flood event. And I know Seminole County has done evacuations. I know they've opened shelters, but we're going to see a lot of images about the destruction that was done in Southwest Florida. And obviously we have massive assets there, but people should just understand this storm is having broad impacts across the state, and some of the flooding you're going to see in areas hundreds of miles from where this made landfall are going to set records, and that's going to obviously be things that that will need to be responded to. We have, of course, massive amounts of food and water in the area. We're going to have probably close to 300 truckloads of food and water in the area today. Fortunately, most of our school districts will be able to reopen on Friday or Monday. Lee County is in a very difficult situation, Charlotte, so we're going to work with them and see when they can get back on their feet. But the damage there has been just so extensive that it's a very difficult situation. We have received a major disaster declaration for 9 counties, but we do expect more. I just spoke with the president this morning. He offered support. I told him thanks for this, but because the storm has moved inland and caused a lot of potential damage in the center part of our state, that we were going to be asking for those counties to be expanded and included there. But for now, we have approval for Charlotte, Collier, DeSoto, Hardy, Hillsborough, Lee, Manatee, Pinellas, and Sarasota. That will allow individual Floridians to seek individual assistance from FEMA. And that will be something that, as you have people that have been displaced due to the catastrophic impacts of Hurricane Ian, that's going to be something that's going to be necessary. We have been granted 100% federal assistance, category A and B, up front for 30 days to ensure we can quickly move forward into this response and recovery situation. FEMA has, as I mentioned, activated individual assistance for those in need of help who qualify. You go to FEMA.gov, or you can call 1-800-621-3262. Make sure you take a picture of the water line in your home, because if you can show that, we're able to get assistance to you faster. As people have emerged this morning, particularly in the areas that were hard hit, just understand this is still a hazardous situation. Those folks that were in there in the wee hours of the morning we're taking big risks as first responders navigating this. You have power lines that are down, you have trees that are down, you have a lot of hazards right now. We do anticipate a lot of the water will subside in some of the barrier islands and some of the coasts, but some of those inland places off rivers and off these inlets, you're likely to have standing water there throughout all of today and even in the days ahead. So that is a hazard, and just please be aware that is something that if you weathered the storm to this point, going and doing and getting involved in that is just totally not worth it. And we want to minimize any harm to anybody as a result of what we're seeing right now in the streets. We have had 26 states provide support. We really appreciate that. It's going to be put to use. This is, I don't think we've ever seen an effort mobilized for this many rescues this quickly, but we appreciate it, and we will make good use of it. We want people to be safe. Those who are in need of life support right now, help is on the way. What they were able to do is look to see where the areas that were the hardest hit, and they've been focusing assets there. So obviously the barrier islands, but then you also have places along these different inlets and different rivers where people said the water was rising. They were calling into the county or calling 911. And so they have a pretty good sense of where those calls were coming from, and they're focusing their rescue efforts on those areas that were most hard hit. And again, I just want to thank the urban search and rescue teams, the National Guard, the state resources, and the Coast Guard for not waiting around, but going in there and understanding that time is of the essence, and we got a lot of people we need to help. For those looking to help, people say, what can we do? Well, the First Lady is spearheading our efforts with Volunteer Florida to activate the Florida Disaster Fund, where people can donate. It's much better to donate financially rather than sending items. We've got a lot of items, and that resources, financial resources, can really help people get their unique needs met. We have everything we need in terms of supply, but if you go to floridadisasterfund.org or text disaster to 20222, you can provide some much appreciated assistance. And if you want to volunteer, you have official volunteer portal at www.volunteerflorida.org to find volunteer opportunities. The impacts of this storm are historic, and the damage that was done has been historic. And this is just off initial assessments. There's going to be a lot more assessing that goes on in the days ahead. But I think we've never seen a flood event like this. We've never seen storm surge of this magnitude, and it hit an area where there's a lot of people in a lot of those low-lying areas, and it's going to end up doing extensive damage to a lot of people's homes. So there's going to be a lot of work to do. Today is about identifying the people that need help, who may still be in harm's way, but also beginning the process of rebuilding some of the things that we need to have services restored, to have fuel, and to have the things that people need in terms of communications. I want to thank Kevin Guthrie for having these assets ready to go. We're going to use every bit of them, and we're going to be there until all the tasks are completed. So, Kevin, you want to come up and give an update?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, First Lady, for your leadership across the state. Going into a little more detail this morning, obviously, as Tropical Storm Ian continues to move across Central Florida this morning, we have damaging winds and extreme rainfall expected throughout the Northeast Florida and Central Florida area. I want to emphasize that the storm still poses a major threat to the state, including Central Florida right now and Northeast Florida. Orange County Fire Rescue is actively conducting 9 wide area search responses on the water for rising water in the Central Florida area that is happening right now as we speak. At this time, the division has received more than 1,500 resource requests from our local impacted partners, and we have filled or are in the process of filling 1,300. As the governor said, there are 300 plus truckloads of food and water that have been loaded out, and they are mobilizing to leave to the Southwest Florida area right now. In addition to in addition to the issues with cell phones, we are deploying cell phone towers, as the governor mentioned, over 100 assets in that arena alone. We want to reinforce, and we appreciate the fact that we have received over 15,000 inputs to our shelter-in-place system. So we want to encourage you, if you are sheltering in place, or you know someone that has sheltered in place, and you know that we need to have go out and check on them, please register that individual or register yourself at floridadisaster.org/report. That's floridadisaster.org/report. We've made that more specific. Yesterday it was info, but we made it a little more specific so you did not have to hunt around for that site. So again, I'll repeat it for the third time, floridadisaster.org/report to complete the shelter in place survey. I want to reiterate that is not a replacement for 911. If you're in an emergency situation, you need to call 911 in your local area. Our logistical staging areas in Central Florida have all the additional resources that we need to respond. We have tarps, we have medical supplies if needed in those warehouses. We want to make sure that all the available resources can get to the residents as quickly as possible. We're obviously in a situation now where we are starting our 72-hour clock, and that 72-hour clock is that we search first, we secure, and then we stabilize. So that is what the focus of the State Emergency Response Team is going to be over the next 72 hours. Again, that is search, secure, and stabilize. I want to thank the governor and the first lady for their continued leadership and support. They've been here nonstop around the clock. And again, sir, thank you for that.
Okay, First Lady.
No, I just want to say on behalf of the governor and myself, everyone here who's working at the Emergency Operations Center, all of the men and women who have not left since this disaster began, to all of those people across the state, our first responders, I want to say thank you, because the people across the state and the country have stepped up big to support our Florida Disaster Fund. So far, in less than 24 hours since we launched the fund, we've raised $1.6 million. I am in constant contact with two folks. One, the people of Volunteer Florida, to pledge that we are going to remove any red tape and bureaucracy from getting those funds deployed to the people who need them immediately. And then also we're working with a lot of businesses across the state to continue to build upon that. But thank you to the people across this country and this state for stepping up to help wonderful people who are in need. Again, there's a couple of ways that if you want to continue to donate, you can go to floridadisasterfund.org, or you can also text disaster to 20222. But on behalf of so many wonderful people, thank you for stepping up, and please continue to do so.
So we will be having all assets marshaled until the job is done on this initial phase. I may be able to get down today to help to survey and talk to some of the folks down in Lee and Charlotte counties. But those were massive impacts, and so we are looking at. Kevin said, these 72 hours very important for safety for folks and rescuing people that need that, and eventually bringing some stability. But you're looking at a storm that's changed the character of a significant part of our state, and this is going to require not just emergency response now in the days or weeks ahead. I mean, this is going to require years of effort. To be able to rebuild and to come back. These are fantastic communities down in Southwest Florida with a lot of fantastic people, and they're very tough and resilient. Of course, they didn't ask for this, but they need our help now, and we're going to be there for them. And we understand that this is going to be a very, very long process. And we also understand that these effects are going to go throughout the state today, and you're going to continue to see effects from flooding and these other ailments, not just today, but in the days ahead. So thanks for the support for everyone around the country who's donated, and thanks for everyone who's volunteered the time, and thanks for all the other states who have lent their support to us. Okay.
There have been reports that maybe there were hundreds of fatalities in Lee County. Do you have any clarification on how?
So none of that is confirmed. I think what that is there were 911 calls for people saying, hey, the water is rising in my home. I'm going to go up in the attic, but I'm really worried. Of course, those folks are now going to be checked on. And so I think you'll have more clarity about that in the next day or so as they're able to go to those locations and determine whether people need services or are able to be rescued. My sense is that that water was very, very high. But my hope is that if folks did go higher, if they were there, it's not comfortable. But now we're in a situation. I mean, if you're there, they want to come get you. And so hopefully we'll be able to see a lot of those people brought to safety. And I can tell you in the barrier islands, I mean, there have been a number of people that have been helicoptered to safety. And it's great because, these folks sprung into action and they're doing it. We have had the 2 unconfirmed fatalities in the sense that we don't know that they're linked to the storm. I mean, our assumption is it likely is. And so basically FDLE will make that assessment and then that will be reported. But that's what we have. That number that was put out by Lee is basically an estimate of, hey, these people were calling, the water was rising on their home. They may not have ended up getting through. So we're obviously hoping that they can be rescued at this point. And I know the folks there locally, those were the areas that they wanted to spring into action to. And they really used the information that was coming, not just through those emergency calls, but also through signing up on the website to see. And I think there's a pattern that's developed about where those calls are coming from and where those people are signing up from. And you can see the areas. I mean, no one wants to see. I mean, you see 3 foot of water in a road. I mean, that's obviously bad. That's going to do damage. But you see the places where the water was 4, 5, 6 feet in a residential area, and that is really the life-threatening situation.
Details of what you're hearing from Central Florida as far as flooding and other damages?
Yeah, this morning at 5:45 a.m., I received a phone call from Orange County Emergency Management Director, Chief Laura Lee Avery. She's actually technically assigned to the fire department as a division chief over the Department of Emergency Management there. She called me to let me know that they were actively responding to 9 widespread areas along the Colonial Drive area, I-4, State Road 46 area of Central Florida, and that they were requesting assistance for stuff that we may have staged in Orlando. So very quickly this morning, our overnight crew sprung into action and started moving National Guard high water vehicles as well as other assets that were staged there for urban search and rescue elements, swift water elements, and they started moving into action this morning. I do not have a total number of potential saves that they have done, but what is linked to is the massive amounts of rainfall that are happening there. We were receiving reports that some creeks, tributaries, the area around the St. John's, headwaters around the St. John's area, and unconfirmed, may have been rising at about a rate to about 4 feet in a matter of hours. So lots of rain in the area, lots of instant action water rise. There's a lot of lakes in Central Florida, especially in that Orlando Kissimmee area. And it appears that these lakes were filling up and overflowing into the neighborhoods around them. So that's what is going there on in the Central Florida region. I will say, as a part of Central Florida and also as a part of Southwest Florida, do not come in and tour the area for damage. We have 20,000, 30,000 responders coming into area that need access to those roads. Stay at home. Do not get on the roads. Let the first responders have the roadways. Let the power crews have the roadways. We will get things open up exponentially quicker if we don't have to maneuver around individuals that are just coming into area to look around. So please stay out of the area, both in Central Florida as well as Southwest Florida. Let the crews get in there, do what they need to do. We're coming in full force. We've got a lot of people coming in there. We need you out of our way so we can get our job done. Thank you.
But also just note, I mean, as this exits the state, it's going to go into the Atlantic Ocean and it's going to impact other states in the country. And so you're looking at Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, they may be having impacts. So this is just a lot of water, and you're going to have flooding in those other states as well. Of course, they're not going to have to deal with the catastrophic impact that Florida suffered on the Southwest coast. But this thing is not done creating damage. I mean, this thing's going to continue to move. So I know they've declared state of emergencies in many of those states, and they're going to have to deal with this storm, which is wreaking havoc across our state, but it's going to end up wreaking havoc in communities across the southeastern part of the United States. Yes.
Governor, you made a comment about a pattern for the 911 calls and the surveys. Is there an area that you're looking at that you can share?
So I would say, I think Kevin can come in and do, I would say, obviously, the places that got the catastrophic storm surge. So you'd be looking at the barrier islands in Lee, Charlotte counties, some of the coast, even in Collier County. And then you're looking at, as you go inland, in kind of that Fort Myers, Charlotte County juncture, where you've got the Caloosahatchee, you've got these inlets, you've got the harbor. Those areas, because the storm surge can come on a barrier island, it's there, and then that is just caught, the water's just building up. And so you see that they were absolutely consistent with Kevin posted. We have it in there in our room, the inundation map from 24 hours ago, what we projected. And what you'll see is some of those areas, you go inland, even many blocks, and you have massive inundation that are off those areas. And so I think it was a pretty consistent pattern. And I think if you look at what's going on, it's going to be those communities in Lee and Charlotte counties that are close to those bodies of water that probably suffered the most severe flooding. And, there's people that had, the Coast Guard has had people that were in their attic and got saved off their rooftops in those areas because of the flooding. So that, I think, is pretty clear that was really that. But you also have, normally we would say, having 3 or 4 foot of flooding in some residential area was like a big deal. You see that in like Northport, I think I would say, in southern parts of Sarasota, but that's just a different degree than what we've seen in Lee and Charlotte counties. Okay, we will be back here likely later today, but we will be down in Southwest Florida as well.
All right, listening into the governor talking about just the extent of the damage that we are seeing here in Florida. He did speak to President Biden this morning. They were able to secure FEMA aid and assistance. He said that he broke down some of the counties that are going to get that, but he says we're going to need even more.
Right. So some of the counties he talked about: Charlotte, Lee, Pinellas, Sarasota, to receive individual funding from FEMA. And they're going to receive federal assistance as well for 30 days, 100% federal assistance for 30 days. Here's the other thing he said, Amy, and I'm sure it struck you as it did me. He said the historic impacts of this storm have never before been seen. Unprecedented events happening here in the state of Florida. He said this is an event that's not going to be over in a matter of days, in a matter of weeks, perhaps not even in a matter of months. We're talking a few years, right, to restore things.
And we saw that with Hurricane Andrew.
We did.
Of course, the extent of the damage that was done with Andrew many years ago, and how long it took for them to get everything back to normal. And we're seeing some of the images coming in from Lee County, and they're just horrific. And we have learned that a section of the Sanibel Bridge, which there's only one, it's a little causeway that connects Fort Myers to Sanibel, actually washed away. So even if you were able to survive on the island, you now have no way to get back and forth unless someone brings you in by boat or chopper.
Yeah, absolutely. And our coverage is going to continue coming here in just a bit. We're going to toss to our 9 o'clock hour. It's 9:18, but we're tossing to the 9 right now.
Fox 35 News starts now. Tracking Ian.
All right, so we have been bringing you up to date. It is now a tropical storm, Ian, that is still sending buckets of rain down onto Central Florida and causing major flooding concerns.
Right now, you are going to be taking a live look at what you see behind me here, which is that radar that still has a ton of rain. Let's get on out to the experts now with a look at what we can expect. Hey, guys, take it away. Allie.
Hey, Danielle.
Good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Allison, what a night it has been.
Yeah, it really has. We've been seeing so much rain, and still more is falling, with some wind gusts that are rather large, which we'll be touching on here with you. But Brooks, now that this is a tropical storm, we no longer have those hurricane warnings.
Yeah, the tropical storm warnings are up, and we're having a full-blown tropical storm right now. The tropical storm warnings continue until further notice. In many communities right now, the wind is blowing harder than it has done the entire storm, especially on the coastline, Volusia County, northern Brevard, Seminole County, on up through Flagler County, gusting over 70 miles an hour. Halson will show you the latest on that coming up. Let's get down to the stats on this right now. This is the latest 8 a.m. advisory. It is located now just along the shore off of Daytona Beach. It has winds right now of 65 miles per hour, so it is now tropical storm Ian. And that said, The wind impacts out there are significant. There are limbs down everywhere. Some roads are very difficult to pass unless you've got a big truck. And even then, sometimes people are getting out and moving limbs aside to try and get through some of those areas. By 2 o'clock this afternoon, it'll be offshore, probably located 100 miles or a little bit more offshore. So we're going to start to see the conditions, the wind conditions slowly starting to fade, but it's going to remain windy for the day today. It really won't be until later tonight that things start to really calm down as far as that's concerned. It'll then move north and then make a second landfall toward the low country of South Carolina, maybe near Charleston or maybe near Folly Beach, then work up through the Midlands of South Carolina and eventually rain itself out in the Smoky Mountains, producing no doubt more life-threatening flooding in that area. So the legacy of Ian continues. It is not over yet. Latest is we've got this northeast fetch coming off of the water and flash flood warnings continuing. The flash flood warnings are going to be in effect for some time. And Allison, you've been tracking right now on Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar, checking out the circulation and the impacts, and you've got our Fox Weather Alert System at the ready.
That's exactly right, Brooks. And we have a great partner with Fox Weather, and we get to see alerts come in directly as they do to our alert system. So let's take you into a few more of these flash flood warnings that have been extended. We've been talking about that, one in Volusia County now until noon, one in Seminole County until 11:45. And then we brought you this just about 30 minutes ago, a flash flood warning which does include several counties. That's going to be in effect until 12:15. The counties are Lake, Orange, Seminole, as well as Volusia. So we're going to continue to monitor things for you. I do want to take you out to a wide view of Ian right now on our Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar. And I want to let you know it is so important that we have our very own radar with this blue sweep scanning those central flies. So we are giving you up-to-date minute-by-minute scans of what you could be seeing in your neighborhood. Now, something that I do want to mention is that heavy rain. And let's take you out to some rainfall rates, just how heavy this rain is falling. Now, right now, some of the heaviest rain is actually just offshore of Volusia County. That's falling at a rate of more than 4 to 6 inches per hour, but still some very heavy rain that's moving across Volusia County right now. We continue to monitor flood warnings there. Now, something else that I do want to take you into are some preliminary, and I'm calling it preliminary because we don't have any official readings on exactly how much rain has fallen within the last 24 hours, but we can give you a good idea. So let's take you through some colors on here. The purples is going to be 6+ inches, and the white shade that you're seeing on your screen is going to be 10+, potentially up to 24 inches. So that's more than a foot, if not 2 of rain in some spots. So just south the New Smyrna Beach. We've had a reporter out there, Nestor Motto, and you saw just how much rain is falling. So some preliminary reports of up to 15 inches south of Sanford, just to the west of the 417, 12 inches, potentially 10 to 11 in Winter Park in Orlando. And we were talking about just yesterday how much rain we could be seeing. And again, on our Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar, more is going to be on the way. So let's take you right out there, and I can actually go street level to show you some heavy rain that is falling. If you live in Daytona Beach, or South Daytona rather, on South Peninsula Drive here, Port Orange, we're looking at State Highway 5A, State Highway 421. If you live on Hensel Road, Devon Street here, any of the areas that I just mentioned, we are looking at moderate to heavy rainfall. So when we went out to Nestor Motto, one of our reporters, he was saying, hey, it's not raining right now. Well, I want to let you know some of these very heavy rain bands off the Atlantic are now moving into our viewing area. We do have a live picture of Nestor's camera right here, so you can see the rain that is falling and the water is moving on the roadways. So we talk about how it's not safe to drive in these conditions, and it's really not, and not even to stand in it. You don't know how thick and deep that water is. I want to just take you out to the back end of this system. So Gainesville, you haven't seen rain in quite a while, and it looks like that I-75 corridor still going to be rain free, but anywhere out to the east of that, that does include Lake County. We're seeing some showers and moving into Osceola County, just to the south of Kissimmee. So Brooks, we are continuing to see these showers going through. We did want to mention that we're not necessarily hearing any of that rain on our Fox 35 studios right now, but there's still some very, very gusty winds, and I can actually take you into those winds. Let's see right here. Oh, okay, base reflectivity. Want to make sure I'm getting everybody the right view here. Just how strong the current winds are. So south of Deltona, we're looking at 58 mile per hour sustained winds. Now just to the east of Orlando there, 54 mile per hour winds, 42 just to the south of the beach line. So you can see these are some of the strongest sustained winds that we have seen in the last several hours, and gusts are even higher in some spots. So I'm going to send things back over to meteorologist Brooks Garner to take a look at how much rain we actually could be seeing from here on out.
Yeah, we're still in the thick of it right now, especially here across the northeast coast, but other areas will see considerably less rain. Daytona, you can see another 7 inches, Palm Coast 6 inches. Ocala Villages, you're pretty much done with the heavy rain. Might see another inch down toward places like Sanford, about 4 inches into land. So we're kind of on the tail end of the rain stuff, but as far as the wind, it continues. Winds at 56 now in Orlando and gusts 24 in Melbourne. Gusting to 58 in Sanford, gusting to 72 right now in Daytona. So we're getting these near hurricane force gusts continuing, and it is really, really rough out there right now. Let's take a look at the future winds. You know, as we head towards 7 o'clock tonight, we're still going to catch the tropical storm force winds here across Orlando and Daytona, and maybe some hurricane force gusts up toward the Jacksonville area. So this is really continuing, and we've just been enduring it. If you got power this morning, you're lucky, because the power outages have just been prolific. Looks like hundreds of thousands this morning are in the dark. We'll have another weather update coming up. We'll track these winds, talk about the rain, and our Fox 35 storm team coverage will continue from this corner. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Brooks. Well, we can tell you that right now, Central Florida is feeling strong winds, experiencing heavy rainfall as well. All of this from now Tropical Storm Ian, as it inches into our viewing area. It is here. It is still doing damage.
It is a lot of damage. Many neighborhoods are being evacuated throughout Orange County and in Volusia County. We know that there are neighborhoods that are flooded there as well. Fox 35's Nestor Mato is live from a section of New Smyrna Beach that has seen a ton of rain. Nestor?
Yeah, we've seen so much flooding. Really, pretty much my shift started at midnight, and from midnight, so just about an hour ago, it's been nonstop. Let's show you what's happening behind me. Now, because of the high flood waters, cars have stalled, which I've been telling you about for the last hour. You can see that sedan stalled right there. Right behind it, you can see some first responders. I'm not sure if they're going to stop for them or if they're just heading to another call, but they're coming out as well. Everyone very, very worried about trying to get to where you want to go. But really, as we've talked about all morning, there's really nowhere to go. I'm camping out right now outside of a gas station. There's no gas. It's closed. Nothing is open. And the floodwaters are still very high. As Allison Gargaro was just saying, it's not over yet. We do know that the rain is going to continue as Ian makes its exit that we are really looking forward to, but for now we are going through it. The rain has let up, though, as I just mentioned, and that has really helped because we saw some residential areas that started receding just a little bit, just a tad, but it wasn't building. It gave it enough breather to recede just a little. And of course, that's what we're hoping continues. But besides the cars that stall because of these high floodwaters, even if you get to a point where the road dries up some, there's debris because right there as well. So it is just not a driver-friendly situation. Stay home, as we've mentioned, Danielle. A lot of the deaths and injuries that happen with storms is after they pass. This little lull. Now people say, oh, we could step outside. And that's where you get into floodwaters. You can get electrocuted if you don't know where the street ends and the water begins. So this actually, while it may feel like the winds have died down, oh, I feel safer about it. It's actually maybe some of the most dangerous parts of the storm.
You know, I got to tell you, and I think, you know, your situation is a perfect example of that, right? When we came on the air with you at 2 o'clock in the morning, there was no flooding, right? You were standing on basically dry ground. Just a few hours later.
There was electricity.
Right?
Yeah.
Completely saturated. You've got to worry about downed electrical power lines and so many other things. And I think that's really the message for folks out there now who may want to go out, as the governor said, and assess the damage. You know, Nestor, this is not the time to do that.
No, and that's why I'm here, and that's why we have Dave Puglisi in the Thunder Truck, and that's why we have our crew all over Central Florida. And it's because we can show you what's happening so you can stay home and stay safe. And of course, you definitely don't want to venture out and then get caught up in a situation where not only have you put yourself in danger, but now you've pulled away resources from someone else, maybe someone who's elderly or someone who needed the help.
Yeah, it's a really scary situation.
Absolutely.
And we're glad you're safe, Nestor. And of course, we hope that people who are around you stay safe as well. We can hear sirens outside of our Fox 35 studios right now.
No, don't run now. Don't run now, y'all. Look at this old stuff oven stuffer roaster. Look at this fat bitch, y'all. No, don't start running now. This is your queen. This is the queen to be. Huh? You big fat jelly roll head ass bitch. You old boy's head ass bitch. Huh? You Monique before the surgery head ass bitch. You look like Precious when she was sitting on the bus, looking out the window. Looking like Precious. Look at this black crispy bitch. Look at this fat bitch. Looking like Rerun. No, she like Rerun with Rod's mother. You Mabel King head ass bitch. Like Roger and D's mother for what's happening. Look at this fat bitch. Look at this fat bitch. Huh? Big choir robe wearing fucking big fucking slab rib eating, fucking chicken grizzle chewing, fucking 2-liter fucking Pepsi drinking, fucking pound cake and ice cream eating, fucking anchovy pizza with fucking pineapples eating, you General Toast chicken pork fried rice eating, you motherfucking beef jerky, dipping the beef jerky and fucking hot sauce ass fat ass bitch. You motherfucking pumpkin pie with a scoop of pecan ice cream on top of it, bitch. You fat nasty bitch, you. Huh? You nasty bitch. You got fucking oil under your fucking titties, bitch. You put baby powder under your fucking titties, bitch. You stink ass knock needed, bitch. You got black marks on your thighs, bitch. You flat back ass bitch. You refrigerator Perry head ass bitch. You nasty ass bitch. Your fucking nostrils look like the Holland Tunnel, bitch. Your big ass lips look like fucking kielbasa sausages. You fucking fat, swole faced ass bitch. You Carolina sausage eating ass bitch. Huh? You beef patty and cocoa bread eating ass bitch. You watermelon fucking martini eating with a fucking steak sandwich bitch. Huh? You white rice and ketchup eating ass bitch. You sloppy ass big titty, knock needed ass bitch. You stroke victim with your face leaning to the left ass bitch. You nappy headed nigga ass bitch. You look like Silly from The Color Purple bitch. Fuck you talking about? Nah, fuck that. You look like Oprah bitch. When they beat that bitch with the gun over the head bitch. They fucked you what bitch? They had the panties showing where you was laying down. You remember Color Purple when they beat up Miss Sophia. Bitch, stop playing with me out here, bitch. Stop playing with me, bitch. Stop playing with me. How big pork rib, you motherfucking pork beef slab, rib ass eating bitch. You fucking uncooked bacon eating ass bitch. You big hardhead cheese ass bitch. Fuck you talking about Shirley from What's Happening head ass bitch. Fuck you talking about taking a bite out of Roger sandwich bitch. Bitch, you's a fat bitch. Fuck you talking about here bitch. Bitch, you look like Precious when she was sitting on the bus bitch. Stop playing with me bitch. Stop playing with me bitch. Stop playing with me bitch. This bitch neck. Huh? You a black neck leather face ass bitch. Fuck you talking about your nose with them synthetic wig bitch. Looking like you got brittle on your fucking head bitch. Fuck you talking about your slack ass stomach bitch. Huh? Your stomach like a pound of fucking chitlins bitch. Fuck is wrong with this nasty bitch out here yelling and screaming talking about she eat highly organic. Bitch, you ate up all the animals, bitch. You wait for new animals to come out to eat, bitch. You a fat ass bitch. Go look at that bitch page anytime she talking about food. You fat ass sloppy bitch, you trying to wear eyelashes or hide the ugliness of your face, you fucking gorilla. You black ass, crispy ass bitch. You look like patent leather, bitch. Fuck you talking about out here, bitch. You cock out fucking fish eye fool ass bitch. Fuck you talking about, ho? You 46 years old on YouTube acting crazy, bitch. Look at that bitch lips. Bitch looks like kielbasa sausages out this motherfucker. Look at her cheeks. Storing all that food for the winter, you head ass bitch. Fuck you talking about? Anytime that bitch talk, look like some stink. Smelling that stink ass pussy, bitch. While your nostrils just flared, bitch. Stop playing with me.
Have fun at school. Life is a constant